Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer. Look, we're basically handing you a concrete, totally data-backed playbook today to protect your absolute biggest investment, your home. If you've ever wondered just what exactly goes wrong in a home renovation, well, you're in the right place. We're going to break down the 9 costliest mistakes that homeowners are making right now in 2026 and exactly how we can avoid them.
So, to really understand what's at stake here, we got to start with the real numbers. $55,000. According to the 2026 U.S. House and Home Study, that is now the national median spend for a major kitchen remodel. Just let that sink in. It really grounds our abstract ideas of cost into a harsh reality, right? Especially when you consider that the top 10% of projects out there are now easily blowing past 150 grand. But honestly, here's the truly staggering part of the data. A recent survey by the National Association of the Remodeling Industry found that nearly 40% of major renovation projects end up exceeding their initial budget by 15% or more. Almost half. Which, of course, begs the question, right? What is the one thing that ruins 40% of renovation budgets and causes this massive timeline creep? Now, it's supernatural to assume it's some hidden disaster hiding behind the drywall. But the truth? The truth is that these failures almost always stem from predictable, unforced errors rather than massive, out-of-nowhere surprises. So here's our roadmap for the explainer to sidestep those traps. We're going to cover the renovation reality check, the planning imperative, vetting your construction team, avoiding mid-project traps, and finally, the ultimate renovation secret. Let's get to it.
All right, Section 1, the renovation reality check. Getting a grip on 2026 baseline costs and market shifts. The numbers here brilliantly illustrate exactly what we're up against right now. When you look at the national figures, sure, a primary bath runs between $35,000 and $45,000. But that bottom row, that is what catches people completely off guard. Where you live changes absolutely everything. Costs in major coastal metros are 30 to 50% higher. To put that into perspective, a $100,000 kitchen in Chicago is going to run you about $140,000 in LA for the exact same scope and the exact same materials. Wild, right? Plus, the whole landscape has shifted a ton since 2024. Stabilized, but definitely higher interest rates mean borrowing against your home with a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, is just way more expensive now. And that puts immense pressure on getting your initial budget perfectly right from day one. Oh, and you've also got 12 to 20-week lead times for high-end appliances, not to mention stricter municipal building codes for things like EV chargers and solar. But hey, it's not all bad news. The Inflation Reduction Act is actually out there offering major tax credits for energy-efficient upgrades like heat pumps and windows. Okay, moving right along to Section 2, the planning imperative. We're tackling the single biggest misconception in residential construction. It's the ultimate battle, isn't it? The wish list versus the real plan. See, so many homeowners incorrectly believe that the contractor owns the plan. They just hand over a Pinterest board of vague inspiration photos and expect a flawless build. But guys, a good contractor's only job is to build exactly what is specified, literally. If you want a predictable process, you have to provide architectural drawings, a highly detailed scope of work, and exact manufacturer model numbers. Bottom line, you must own the plan. Now, what's really interesting here is how this planning battle directly impacts your home's long-term performance. Choosing finishes based purely on what looks good on Instagram, that leads to peeling paint and stained grout 5 years down the line. You've got to prioritize wear ratings. Think LVP, luxury vinyl plank, or porcelain tile if you've got kids and pets running around. Choose a non-porous quartz over that high-maintenance marble. Specify paint sheens like semi-gloss for trim and eggshell or satin for scrubbable walls. And please demand proper installation techniques. Things like using Schluter edge systems for large format tile to prevent that uneven lippage. Let's pause right here for a second for a little bit of tough love. Ambiguity costs money. It really is that simple. If your plans just vaguely say install new pendant light, your electrician actually has to stop working just to ask you where it goes. You are literally paying their billable hourly rate for your own indecision. Which brings us perfectly to the contingency fund. Let me be super clear. This is a completely non-negotiable 10 to 15% dedicated budget line item for unforeseen issues. We're talking hidden termite damage or suddenly needing a forced electrical panel upgrade to meet code. This is not some optional slush fund for fun upgrades. If your construction estimate is 100 grand, your true budget is 115,000. If you don't have that extra 15%, honestly, you can't afford the project yet. All right, pivoting to Section 3, vetting your construction team. We need to talk about why jumping at the lowest bid is basically a recipe for disaster.
Look, hiring based on the lowest bid is kind of like choosing a surgeon just because they handed you a discount coupon, right? It almost always means they missed something critical in the scope of work. Instead, you need to use a methodical framework. Get exactly 3 details quotes, check 3 specific references, actually go and visit one finished job site in person. And crucially, this is huge, verify their state license and insurance. An uninsured contractor could leave you completely financially liable for any accidents that happen on your property. No joke.
But, beyond the basic checks, how do you actually figure out who you're dealing with? What are the 3 questions you absolutely must ask every single contractor during an interview to move way past that simple, what's your price mentality?
Okay, first up, ask them exactly how they handle communication and updates. You're looking for a contractor who actively suggests standing weekly meetings and uses a dedicated project app so you aren't constantly chasing them down. Next, ask to see a sample change order. This is a great test. It proves they provide clear, detailed, and fair breakdowns before they ever send you an invoice. And finally, ask who their 3 most used subcontractors are. A general contractor is truly only as good as their plumbers and their electricians. So what you're checking for here are deep, long-standing relationships with quality trades.
Let's jump into Section 4, avoiding mid-project traps, surviving the actual physical execution of the build. First things first, we have to formally define the change order. This right here is the absolute #1 budget killer. It is a post-contract alteration that ripples through your entire timeline. Deciding you want to move a wall after it's already been framed, wired, and insulated, that is exponentially more expensive than just moving a pencil line on a drawing before the work even started. Every single change stops momentum, requires requoting, and incurs major rush fees. You also have to survive the physical build environment itself. Simply put, please don't live in the mess. Rent somewhere else during demolition and drywall because that fine silica dust, it will absolutely ruin your lungs and fry your electronics. If you literally have to stay, you've got to demand commercial-grade air scrubbers and zip wall containment systems to isolate the zones. Oh, and establish a weekly check-in, but whatever you do not micromanage or directly instruct the subcontractors. Messing with that chain of command just confuses everyone and will end up costing you thousands.
So the crucial point when it comes to building permits is understanding these 2 wildly different views. Some people see them as this optional bureaucratic hassle just to save some time. But skipping them, that risks denied homeowners insurance claims and it will absolutely scare off future buyers. The reality is, a permit is your insurance policy. It guarantees neutral third-party inspections for structural safety. Honestly, any contractor who suggests skipping the permit process to save a few bucks is waving a massive glowing red flag.
And finally, we arrive at Section 5, the ultimate renovation secret, uncovering the meta pattern behind all these costly errors. I'm just going to give it to you straight. After analyzing thousands of projects, the root cause of almost all renovation disasters is simply this: impatience. Rushing the planning phase, eagerly hiring the very first contractor who actually calls you back, buying whatever in-stock materials are at the big box store just to avoid a lead time, that impatience is the ultimate predictor of failure. And all of this builds perfectly into what we call the golden ratio of project success. The breakdown is pretty striking. A truly successful renovation is 90% paperwork and planning phase and only 10% actual physical construction. The big takeaway here? Your project success is completely 100% determined long before demolition day even begins. Which leaves us with one final really important question to wrap up this explainer. Are you willing to find the discipline to slow down and completely lock your plan before swinging that first hammer? Take control of your investment, plan meticulously, and I promise you, you'll build something incredible without all the financial heartache. Thanks so much for exploring this data with us today, and hey, happy planning.